talk to me about Russia and what's going on there. The president is very angry at Vladimir Putin. That made news over the weekend. I played the clip. You know what? It's worth playing again just to bring everybody up to speed. He was getting ready to take off, I believe, on Air Force One back to home to D.C. when he said the following. Take a listen.
Yeah, I'll give you an update. I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time, always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all, okay? We're in the middle of talking, and he's shooting rockets into Kiev and other cities. I don't like it at all.
What's going on, Dr. Coates?
Well, I think this is President Trump's frustration correctly sort of boiling over now, as we've gotten past his 100 days mark, before we know it, we're going to be at 6 months. So, we're halfway through the first year of his presidency, and he's not going to spend infinite time on this. I think it was his legitimate hope, which he expressed on the campaign trail, that he would have sway with both the Ukrainians and the Russians, and that he could potentially get to a deal that would end the killing. And at this point, that really has to be the top goal of the United States, because one thing I wanted to mention is in all of the crazy reconciliation discussions that are going on in Washington right now over the budget, nobody's saying the word Ukraine. Nobody's looking for more funding for Ukraine, either through a separate vehicle or somehow jerry-rigging it into what they're doing now. That was the top topic. The first priority during the Biden administration was always whatever vehicle they were pushing through. Well, we all had to wrap ourselves in the Ukrainian flag and vote for whatever dog's breakfast it was because of our support for Ukraine. That word isn't even being mentioned by the Democrats. So what is practically possible in Ukraine at this point under these circumstances is fairly limited. And I think President Trump was hoping to get to a better solution. What he's signaling is that clearly Putin isn't there, and he's not just going to waste a ton of calories going forward because the clock is ticking on what will be, as he has said, his final term.
I just, it's obvious the president wants peace here. It just I don't get the same sense that Zelensky wants peace. I think he's trying to ride the clock out here to keep the gravy train going.
Well, that's the thing is I think the gravy train is over.
Yeah.
And so I think Zelensky is in the position of, like it or not, he's probably going to do what the Americans say. And General Kellogg said this morning that there's a 22-point plan on the table that the Ukrainians have agreed to that could lead to a ceasefire, and that the Russians have promised to respond, but they haven't yet. And that's the thing, is you can't just go on forever on Russian promises while they're slaughtering civilians the way they did over the weekend. And so I think this is where the president needs to make a decision. He has all of his options on the table. I don't think anybody thinks there's a military option for the U.S. in Ukraine, but there are secondary sanctions he could put on, which would be incredibly effective if the Europeans did it too. And that's a big if. But if you have both the Europeans and the Americans threatening to sanction China, that's China's two biggest markets. So this would be hard for the Europeans to do because they've said recently, oh my goodness, we can't get off Russian gas until 2027. Like, really? You're still on it, and B, it's going to take you 2 more years to get off, which is ridiculous. So this would be a huge step. But if they did it, is what would actually influence Putin's behavior, because he can't survive at this point without China. That's what's keeping his war economy that everyone's talking about. What's keeping that going is the ongoing Chinese support for it. So that is where I think we have the leverage. If the president really wants to stop it, he's going to have to make Putin think he's serious. And what's more important, I think, in that scenario is Brussels is going to have to make Putin think that they are serious as well.
Yeah, okay. In thinking in terms of China, which you just mentioned here, and where does Iran fit into all that if they do it all?
Well, the Iranians are in a similar position because they're selling now close to 2 million barrels of oil a day to China. One of the things the president hasn't done yet, which is in his arsenal, and he's talked about it, is putting the secondary sanctions back on Iran, which means China would again risk doing business with the United States. When he did that during the first term, that's what really bankrupted Iran, because the Chinese said, we'll cheat a little bit, but it's not worth it for us to make Iran a major energy source. But 2 million barrels a day is a lot, even for China. And so if you get it down around 200,000 barrels a day, it's de minimis, and the Iranians can't survive on that level of export. So it becomes a manageable situation. So that's something else the president could do that would say to China, we're really serious about this. Why don't you buy some more market priced oil from, say, Saudi Arabia? That would be just fine with us. You could do that instead of keeping the Iranian regime afloat.